So the DNC changed their rules for the upcoming Nevada debate. The debate is February 19th in Las Vegas, and the DNC said that their rules are no longer going to require for a candidate to receive small dollar donations, a certain number of small dollar donations in order to make the debate stage. Now, this has infuriated a lot of people. Candidates, many of us have spoken out saying, wow, this looks like this is just trying to get Michael Bloomberg on the stage. And that very well may be. But actually, after I looked at it and thought about it more, I'm not totally mad about this change. And let me explain why. The entire point of the small dollar donations was to show that you have support of the voters, that the voters are behind you, that they are supporting you, that they're fueling your campaign, that they're willing to invest in your campaign. And it's the people speaking. It's a form of the people speaking. But what is also a form of the people speaking is voting. In fact, that is the ultimate way people can speak, is to cast their vote. And the change that the DNC made was they swapped out the small dollar donation in favor of the voting in the early states. So they're saying now that you can either get the polling threshold that they continue to put out there, and they keep upping the polling threshold. This time it's you must meet 10% in 4 qualifying national polls or 12% in 2 polls taken in Nevada or South Carolina by a qualifying pollster. And again, I've had a lot of issues with their ideas of qualifying pollsters. I've taken a lot of issues with their even using polls. I still don't think they should use polls. I think they dropped the wrong requirement. Ultimately, they should have dropped the polling requirement and said you either get the small dollar donations or you get the votes in Iowa or New Hampshire. Or they could have just dropped the entire polls and donations altogether and said, now it's going to come down to the votes. How well did you do coming out of Iowa? How well did you do coming out of New Hampshire? If you've got any steam at all, then we want to hear from you. Clearly, voters want to continue hearing from you. So they swapped out the small dollar donation, which was a way for the voter to speak before the votes were even cast, and they swapped it out for actually voting. So what they're saying now is you either make the polls or if you get at least one delegate coming out of either Iowa or New Hampshire, then clearly the voters want to keep hearing from you and you can make that debate stage. That means that Tulsi Gabbard actually has a pretty good chance of making that Nevada debate. I believe she'll come out of New Hampshire with a delegate. And if she comes out with at least a delegate out of New Hampshire, then she too makes this February debate because the rules are either or. So they're saying you either make these polls or you get at least one delegate coming out of Iowa and New Hampshire. Yes, this opens the door for Michael Bloomberg. The reason why people were upset about this and why it opens the door, seems to open the door for him specifically, because he's the candidate, the one candidate who decided he's not taking any money from anybody. He has spent $200 million of his own money on his campaign, and he's not going after any small dollar donations. So when they decided to drop the small dollar donation requirement, that set off alarm bells, and rightfully so, because it does look like optically that they are trying to paint the way for Bloomberg, and they very well might be. But this also did paint the way because they're doing an either or. And the reason why they had to do either or, so this is kind of shooting them in the foot, because you know that they hate Tulsi Gabbard. The establishment doesn't want to hear from her anymore. But because Bloomberg is not actually doing that well, they had to change the requirements to the point where they are now going to be allowing in people that they don't want on that stage. So they want Bloomberg on, they don't want Gabbard on, but they're probably going to end up with both because they've said it's now either or. So they either have to get the polls, which Michael Bloomberg does not have any of the polls. He does not have any of the small dollar donations. They're thinking maybe he'll get a delegate coming out of Iowa or New Hampshire. Now, he didn't get a delegate out of Iowa. He might get a delegate coming out of New Hampshire. It's kind of his neck of the woods. He's the mayor, he was the mayor of New York City, so he's from that region. So it's possible. I still don't think he's going to come away with the delegate out of there. I might take that back. There's a lot of rich people in New Hampshire, and they might really want to vote for Bloomberg. Maybe. But, Tulsi Gabbard is doing really well in New Hampshire. I think she'll come out of there with a delegate, and she too will make that debate stage. So you can't be all that mad about it. It's ultimately saying we're still going to let the voters decide. It still comes down to what the people want. If the people decide that they like you enough to give you a delegate, then you should continue to be heard on that debate stage. I'm not against that. So hopefully that breaks it down a little bit more for you on what's going on. Polls can't be trusted. I think they should totally get rid of that threshold, but whatever. That's their one easy way of rigging it. That's the one way they absolutely can rig it. So they got to keep the polls. They got to keep that. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe and hit the bell. That helps with the algorithms to help get this show in front of more people. Thank you so much for watching.